My favorite coincidence, and this is one that my wife pointed out to me because I wasn't familiar with it, is that Poland and Ireland, well rather Polish and Irish, have the exact same word for ladyboys. And ladybirds. 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 Let's start again. Carlo and I are here to explore the quirks, culture, and glorious confusion of life in Poland, with curiosity, sarcasm, and just enough humility to stay out of trouble.
Together, we're two foreigners, one city, and about 17 ways to mispronounce pierogi.
Pierogi.
Pierogi?
Pierogi?
Pierogi. Each episode, we dive into everyday magic, from pierogi politics to linguistic gymnastics, and try to figure out what makes this city tick.
This isn't journalism, it's cultural anthropology with punchlines. This is Gdzień Gdobry Gdańsk.
Cheekiest cultural podcast Gdansk didn't ask for,
but might secretly enjoy.
So Mannix, one of the questions that we've been getting since our first episode is who in the hell, and yes, that's a real place here in Poland, are these two guys? And what makes them the experts? So I thought with our newfound audience that we'd give them a little bit of our background and how we earned our foreigner PhDs.
And those PhDs didn't come easy. And man, the risks that we took in deciding to move here permanently after just having traveled here or visited, and not to mention the culture shock the foreigners experience, because that's huge.
Yeah, and the incredible coincidences that kind of make this place feel like home.
So before we get into all the risks and culture shocks and random coincidences that make us say, I love Poland more and more, I think we need a little bit of background on us before we came to Poland and what actually led to us being here. Me with 16 years experience and you with already 3 years under your belt. Tell us your story.
Back in New Jersey, life was pretty heavy. My mother-in-law had just passed away. She was one of the real support systems that we had. We have families scattered around the U.S., but we were just basically in a very depressive state. And it was getting time to make a life-changing decision. And I'm not talking like a new hobby or getting a haircut, like
so actually, kind of make or break.
Right. And that, and with the political climate that we were seeing, it was definitely about time to make a long-term decision on where to live, where we would be safe, where my family would be safe, and where we can raise our children with positive influence and none of the danger that comes with living in the U.S.
Sounds like a horrible place. I don't think I ever want to go there.
And with all the years of visiting Poland and continuously falling in love with it every time that we visited, one day I just decided to surprise my wife and say, let's move to Gdansk.
That's quite a surprise for your wife, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, see, we were already talking about it for months. Do we move to the West Coast to be closer to my family? Do we move further east to be with her family? And, I've already done the West Coast thing, California, Las Vegas, New Jersey. Now let's keep moving further east and experience Europe. So.
Next stop, Tokyo?
Probably, yeah. We spoke to a really good immigration lawyer. They gave us really good advice on how to get our paperwork squared away.
This was still in the US?
Yeah, this was while we were still in New Jersey. We kept what we needed, sold our vehicles, sold the rest of our stuff that we didn't need, shipped it all in containers and jumped on a plane and took our summer vacation to Poland. Funny story, when we told everybody we're coming for a vacation to Poland, and everybody was great, happy, hey, you know, they're gonna see us again. We rented an Airbnb and staying in Gdansk, and we invited the whole family over for a little party. You know,
an intervention.
Yeah, we invited the whole family over for, you know, just to get everybody all in one place to, you know, visit us. And during the party, we dropped the surprise that we actually moved there. And, you know, confetti and fireworks and all that champagne popping happened.
Pink balloon, blue balloon.
Yeah. So it was a fun decision. Yes, nerve-wracking. Yes, a lot of responsibilities, loops that needed to be closed. But overall, a great decision. Am I lifelong local? No. Like 3 years might not be a long time, but when you're moving to another country, it feels like 30 years because you're not just living life. You're translating it, you're adapting, you're learning the streets, you're learning the way of doing things in an entirely different culture, community. And you also have to celebrate the tiny wins, especially when you don't make yourself look like an idiot in the middle of the grocery store. But I have lived long enough here in Gdańsk and lived through some experiences that would fill a whole season of this podcast.
My story is a little bit different. I was living and working in Dublin. I was working in an office job. I was working in IT. I was working in a theatre. I was working as a food preparation chef in a hotel. And I was teaching English as a foreign language, mostly to Brazilians at that time.
Wow.
And I was doing all of those at the same time.
Wow. I counted 5 jobs.
Good counting.
That's a lot. That's a lot of work.
And something had to give. I needed a break. I had no time for me. I didn't have a good work-life balance. And the Pope died. These two things are not connected. Suddenly on TV in Ireland, I'm seeing lots of footage from Poland of ordinary people pouring out onto the streets, having a huge celebration of the man's life, having a huge celebration of Poland, being very much aware, I think, that the world spotlight is on them, but at the same time, it seemed to be, as much as anything else, here is a very good pretext to have a party. And I said to myself, Self, you need to go visit Poland. It looks like a really interesting country. These look like really cool and interesting people. And that's what I did. Up until then, the only things really I knew about Poland were the Pope is from Poland. Lech Walesa is from Poland. Lech Wałęsa. They have a lot of Zs in their language. And the Warsaw Pact countries are always red on the map. And that was it. So one August morning, I jumped on a plane and I flew to Wrocław. Of course, at the time, I didn't know how to say Wrocław. I flew into Wiroclaw, but I took the bus from the airport to the city centre, and I arrived it was an August morning, and it was pretty much just as the sun was rising, and there was this red glow across the middle of the city centre, and it felt like something magical. It felt like something from a children's fairy tale book. And I could feel something rising up inside me, and it culminated in me saying, I'm going to move here. That, just on that first impression of being in the place. I have traveled to many different places in the world. I was never hit by that feeling before.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
And I spent a few days in Poland and met some people who did their very best to communicate with me because my Polish was absolute minimum. And as I was flying back to Ireland, I said, okay, I didn't spend long enough in Poland. So I came to Poland again on my next holiday. And each time I was taking a 3-day, a 4-day sort of city break, flying to somewhere in Poland, exploring nearby and going back. And all the time I'm working on this plan in my head, I'm going to move to Poland. I'm going to move to Poland. So yes, on that first visit in Wrocław, I said I'll see myself moving in 5 years. I actually moved in 4. In 2007, I came to Gdansk and I realized that Gdansk is the place for me because Gdansk is very cosmopolitan. It's metropolitan. We're in Metropolia, by the way. And it's always had a mix. It's had a rich, cultured mix. There have been Germans, Polish, Russians, other Slavic nations, Jews, throughout its history. It was the free city of Gdansk for several years. It was part of the Hansa League, special league of city-states, both on the North Sea and the Baltic Sea. And it's particularly open to new cultures coming in, as well as having its own particular flavor. And I could feel that, and I said, yes, okay, it's open. It has this feeling for me.
Yeah, yeah. And especially with a tourist level of Polish, it made more sense for us to move to Gdańsk as well, because going and moving to a smaller village or a smaller town, we weren't going to have as many English-friendly settings. And for the children, there wouldn't be that many opportunities to keep their English. So Gdańsk is, very diverse, very modern. And for a foreigner that doesn't speak the language too well, it's a great transitioning city to move to. It made it a lot easier to live in a city where I can speak my own language and not feel so trapped.
And because I moved to Gdańsk in 2009, I was here for the last great winter TM of 2009-2010, where, among other things, the temperature went down to -26. We pretty much had snow all the way from mid-November to the end of March.
Wow.
And it was exhilarating. It was my first time living in a country where we had definite seasons, because you had a definite summer. I moved in the summer. You had a definite autumn. You had a very, very definite winter, and there was a spring to come after it. In Ireland, everything's sort of temperate, and it's a little bit colder in winter and a little bit warmer in summer, and generally it just rains most of the time anyway. Yeah. I remember as a kid growing up in Ireland, and you didn't even have a guarantee of snow every year, and maybe once in 5 years you had snow that was significant enough to maybe block up some roads for a little bit. And the sad thing is that my children are sort of beginning to experience that now in Poland, in Gdańsk, even though, traditionally it had much more severe winters. Now the winter just tends to be what it looks like outside the window right now. If you could just turn around and look outside the window for a moment, that would be great. Thanks.
Like I was saying before, we needed a big change.
You needed a serious reset.
Serious reset. We decided to move to Poland, but not without its own risks. What would you say when you moved here was your biggest risk that you experienced?
So as I said, I had a slightly different experience of moving here because you were moving here and there was your wife's family was here and you had a certain structure or a certain security blanket, safety net. I moved here single. I moved here, okay, on the one hand, I was more free. I didn't have to worry about anybody but myself. On the other hand, I didn't have anybody to fall back on if I get seriously ill, if something goes badly wrong. So that was possibly the biggest risk for me, that I'm moving as an individual with no line of support that's available to me, not only within the country, but even within any of the neighboring countries.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. Yeah.
So how about you? What was your biggest risk?
I would have to say that one of my assumptions that my tourist level Polish was gonna get me through my day-to-day. Spoiler alert, it did not.
We'll get Morgan Freeman to do that as a voiceover in post.
Come to think of it, one big risk was giving up that safety blanket of being the visitor or the tourist here in Poland, where as a visitor, the Polish really want to take care of you, feed you, clothe you, give you shelter, just very hospitable people.
In Polish, they actually say, gość w domu, Bóg w domu, which translates to, if you have a guest in the house, you have God in the house, and you should treat them similarly.
Well, we were definitely treated that way, that's for sure. So when you move here, you realize that no one is responsible for that anymore. So that's a big risk. Another risk of no longer becoming the visitor is now you have to be the guy who knows how to sort their trash on trash day, because the Polish take their trash separation very seriously. I also risked turning my 2-week vacation energy into a survivor strategy. Yeah, the math just doesn't add up.
Yeah, just in terms of the maths not adding up. The difference I found was that, okay, 2 weeks being here on holiday, as opposed to being here to live. It's a little bit like, I don't know, playing X's and O's versus, I don't know, taking on Garry Kasparov in a game of chess.
Sure.
Yeah.
So another risk is I visited Poland in the spring and the summer. And
I think I see where this is going.
And thought, yeah, I could totally live here. And then winter showed up and said, hold my beer. The winters here are pretty cold. Not as cold as they used to be, but there are days that it could be bitter cold. The days are very short, the nights are very long, and it's pretty much gray all the time. So I experienced my first seasonal affective disorder. In other words, I was sad. And me being the tropical guy that I am, I need my sunshine, I need my 70-degree weather, Fahrenheit, and just.
I'm sorry.
So I was really missing that, and I really felt it the first winter. But after the first winter, knowing, going into the second winter and the third winter, I already knew what to expect. So I've adjusted. You, my best friend, have gotten me a vitamin D light. Gives you your daily dose of sunshine that you normally don't get during the Polish winter.
Mm-hmm. In terms of how seriously cold the winter can be, the first winter when I was here and I'm walking back up to my house, no glove on my hand, and I put my hand on the metal rail. And I left part of my hand, I'm sure, on the metal rail as it stripped the top layer of my skin.
Oh, jeez.
That was about -19.
Oh, my goodness.
So a little bit like freezer burn.
Well, thank God it wasn't your tongue.
I gave up licking railings a long time ago.
Good for you. Good for you.
Left that in my early childhood.
There's another risk too that I can think of. It's the difference between I love Poland for 2 weeks and loving it enough to fill out your paperwork for the immigration office. And guess what? I came, I saw, and I conquered the immigration office paperwork.
Being a citizen of the European Union, I came to Poland and started working almost immediately.
Good for you.
But okay, these are some of the risks, but risks lead to growth. And then sometimes risks lead to you standing in the grocer's wondering why all the drinks in the refrigerator are still warm.
Sure.
So maybe we'll look a little bit at some of the culture shocks for foreigners in Poland.
Okay.
What was life like for you prior to Poland?
Yeah. So I grew up in California. Very laid back atmosphere, totally chill vibe environment. You know, just imagine cruising down Pacific Coast Highway in a convertible with the music blasting and perfect weather. That's California, like most of the year. Later I moved to New Jersey, and yeah, they have the whole Jersey Shore thing going.
Oh, I've seen that on TV.
Yeah. It's not really like that in the city parts. It's a completely different universe. People are minding their own business like it's a full contact sport. They're a little rude, and they're always in a rush, except for rush hour, when there is no rushing and there is no hour, but there is plenty of rage. So yeah, after landing here for real, a few culture shocks just walked right up and introduced themselves.
Like little welcome gifts, but with maximum emotional damage.
Yeah, absolutely. So for instance, we discovered that silence isn't hostility. It's just the way people say hello. And with me and my wife being the happy-go-lucky people we are, we're going around saying hello and smiling at everybody. When people in Poland don't typically smile a lot, and we just look like a couple of deranged people.
But okay, this is just a classic example of the coconut culture and the peach
Okay, I've never
culture.
heard that one.
So some people are like peaches. Peaches are chopped up into sections, and each section represents one part of your life, be it family life, work life, school life. And in a peach culture, you allow people to get as deep as they want to get in each of those sections. So from the outset, people are kind of happy and open, but they keep their own one set of core values as the little stone in the middle of the peach that is not open or available. But for everything else, that's open and available to all people in that particular sector or section.
So that doesn't really sum up my experience in Poland, though.
Well, you see, Polish people are more like the coconut. So coconuts typically have a very hard shell. It's hard, it's hairy, and essentially you don't chop a coconut up into sections. You take off the outside layer to get to the layer underneath. So with Polish people, it takes a certain something to break through a layer. And each layer simply reveals then further layers beneath that. So for example, at the very heart of the coconut is the self, extending to the family, extending to the close friends, extending to the not quite so close friends and acquaintances, extending to, for example, people at work, and then neighbors that you don't know so well, and then random people in the street. So as you're breaking in, you're coming to a coconut shell and being presented with a new layer each time that you have to break through.
So can I tell you one of the hairy situations that I was in, where I eventually got to the sweet, sweet coconut milk? You've experienced a Polish wedding.
I've experienced a few Polish weddings.
3-4 day event. So my first experiences with the Polish wedding was my first time in Poland with my future wife at the time. She decided to bring me to her cousin's wedding, where I got to meet the entirety of her family all in one shot. And we show up early. And as people are coming in and getting ready for the reception and everything, they're looking at me like, who in the hell, there's that place again, is this guy? And what's he doing here? And so everybody is that hairy, hard outer shell, you know, just looking over at me like, and then here comes the food. Here comes the vodka bottle in the middle of the table. And the vodka starts flowing. And by the end of the night, I am everybody's best friend. And everybody is hugging on me, and we're just having the time of our lives. So I think the key to getting to that core of the coconut is lots and lots of vodka.
So for me, one of the biggest cultural shocks is this: small talk. And not just small talk, but in particular, small talk as we use it in Ireland involves starting a conversation by talking about the weather. And by talking about the weather, you establish a safe topic so people know, okay, I can agree with you on this, I can agree with you on that, and now maybe we can open up the conversation into something else. You've already spoken about how you were affected by the weather on your visiting to Gdansk. I've spoken about how much the weather had an influence on me. It's just a natural part of life. In Poland, talking about the weather makes you appear like the most boring person who's ever existed. And you sometimes get the feeling that people are, okay, when is he going to finish talking about the weather so we can talk about real things? And it's, I don't know, it's like just establishing a playing field. And this is something that is just not absolutely not a Polish thing.
Yeah.
And it still catches me by surprise, and I still have a tendency to say to people, oh, it's a nice day, isn't it?
Yeah. Another thing about small talk in the US, part of small talk is asking other people what they do for a living. Here, it's a definite no-no. That's like conversation 4 or 5. People here never really talk about work in a social setting. Typically, small talk here in Poland doesn't include your CV.
Just specifically speaking about that, the pretty standard English question of, so what do you do? Doesn't have a direct equivalent in Polish. So you end up asking people questions that loosely translated into English mean things like, who are you?
What are your hobbies?
And no, but who are you in terms of what is your profession?
Oh.
But sometimes the feeling is, I'm me, who are you?
Right.
Sometimes the question translates as, where do you work? And they mean, what field do you work in? But the feeling is, is it that street or is it over there?
Right.
And the third possibility is the possibility of basically translating to something like, how do you earn money? Mm-hmm. For which the natural answer is, by working.
Yeah. And then also, just like in New Jersey, you do not small talk your butcher, okay? You walk right up to the counter, say Gdzień Gdobry. Sometimes you're acknowledged, sometimes you're not. Regardless, you order, you pay, say dziękuję, and leave. That's it. Anything more, and you're at risk of being banned from the store. And good luck finding your favorite Poland pizza after that.
And this is exclusive to butchers?
Maybe the cashier at the grocery store too. Why does customer service in Poland feel like it's a test of emotional resilience? And then the realization of finding out that personal space has a totally different definition here, especially when you're waiting in queue. And then comes the day that we learned jaywalking is treated like a felony. And you never, ever cross on the crosswalk on a red light.
What Carlo means is that walking across the street at a place where you're not allowed to walk across the street is breaking the law. In terms of incredible coincidences, I'm an English teacher. When I was doing my exams at the end of school to determine where I'm going to go to university, my school leaving exams, the very first exam of those was the English exam. And that happened to be exactly 3 days after Poland had voted in its first ever free elections. The elections on the 4th of June 1989, where the Solidarity Party basically took every single seat that they contested and led to the breakdown of the Soviet hegemony in Poland. And on the morning of me going to the exam, I'm apprehensive that I've got an exam coming up. And at the same time, I'm full of this kind of hope for Europe because I know that some really big things are afoot. And not realizing, of course, that the two things are actually going to dovetail and I'm going to end up being here, being an English teacher in Poland. When my son was being baptized, at his christening, there were 2 different baptisms at the same time in the church. And for the other family, one of them was dressed in a kilt. And me being the kind of curious person that I am, I found an opportunity to sidle closer to the guy wearing the kilt. And I asked him in Polish, is that a real kilt that you're wearing? The joke being that, you don't wear anything under the kilt. And he replied to me in perfect Polish, yes, it is. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. He's interested in the whole Scottish culture thing. I asked him, so have you been to Scotland? And he said, in his perfect Polish, yes, I'm from there. And then I realized, aha, and I said to him still in Polish, I said, oh, I'm from Ireland. And he said to me in English with a very strong Scottish accent, so why are we speaking Polish then? I just love the fact that the two of us naturally assumed that the other person being here at the full ceremony is a Polish person, and until the moment that we each made the breakthrough, we maintained our conversation in Polish, and there was zero question as to the authenticity of the person we're talking to.
That's hilarious. While in a small rural town, I met the only Polish man who speaks Spanish. And he learned it entirely from watching telenovelas or soap operas.
They're very popular in Poland.
Yeah, exclusively one called Cuando Me Enamoro. And he even sings like Enrique Iglesias. And if you know, you know.
My favorite coincidence, and this is one that my wife pointed out to me because I wasn't familiar with it, is that Poland and Ireland, well, rather, Polish and Irish have the exact same word for ladyboys. And ladybirds. 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 Ladybirds.
I don't even want to know why your wife knows what a ladyboy is.
So, and my favorite coincidence of all is that is one that actually my wife pointed out to me because I wasn't familiar with this. Polish and Irish have the same word for ladybirds because in Polish, the normal name for a ladybird is biedronka. And pretty much everybody knows this word. So I knew this to be the word for ladybird. I didn't think anything more about it. But there is a second name for ladybird in Polish, and it is Boża krówka, which literally translates as the little cow of God. And in Irish, the Irish word for ladybird is bóinge, which literally translates as the cow of God. Where this comes from, I don't know. It is known that the Slavic people and the Celtic people traveled together until they parted in Central Europe. Tens of thousands of years ago, the Slavic people settled in what we can call Central Europe, and the Celtic people first moved to Scandinavia and then came down to the islands, giving us Ireland, Scotland, Wales, etc. So it may be leading all the way back to that. Okay, it's Proto-Indo-European, and even still in Europe and even still in India, the cow is regarded as a sacred animal, so who knows?
Oh, another funny coincidence that happens to me over and over again is sitting down at a random Polish restaurant and all of a sudden Spanish music starts playing or American hip hop.
And there's also coincidence that a very famous song in Poland was Kocham cię jak Irlandia, which basically means I love you like Ireland, because at the time Poland was struggling with her own ideas of identity, independence and freedom, and this was something that was very much associated in Polish mindset with Ireland. And of course, let's just say that Ireland has had the same historical situation with regard to our neighbours as Poland has with regard to hers.
Gotcha.
And possibly for me, the most significant coincidence of all was that I was sitting in a cafe, not really minding my own business because I've always got an ear out for the business of other people as well. And I hear this guy ordering his coffee with what is most definitely a West Coast US accent. So I call him out on it, and it turns out he's married to a Polish girl and living here, and they have 2 kids. And I'm married to a Polish girl and I'm living here and I have 2 kids. And we even arranged for our families to meet up, and we didn't remember any of the details about anybody else other than this other guy was kind of cool. And that's it.
I was gonna do something more like this. No, just putting our hands together slowly. Isn't that the beginning of our bromance?
Touching hands, reaching.
All right. Well,
Okay.
on that note, all right, so that's episode number 2. We've survived the culture shocks, the coincidences, and our questionable life decisions. And if you're still listening, congratulations. You've learned a lot about my personal trauma because podcasting is cheaper than therapy.
And if you learned anything today, we'd love to know what it was. Tune in next time when we'll continue to pretend knowing what we're doing. Spoiler alert, we don't.
All right. I'm gonna put that in.
If there's anything you'd like us to talk about, or if you have any stories about Gdansk you'd like to share, let us know.
We're very grateful to Gdansk itself for its stories and for being our new home.
We'd especially like to give a big shout out to our sponsors, because snacks and free drinks only get you so far. So thank you to Toucan 2 Language School, Bang Bang Boom Studio, who've done a lot of work on our website, and Green Gold Productions for producing our show. Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks to Galleria Metropolia for giving us a semi-quiet place to record. Check out our blooper reel to see just how much fun we had making this episode.
This is Mannix.
And this is Carlo from Gdzień Gdobry Gdańsk, saying Gdzień and
Do zobaczenia.